Hey, this is Gina Prince-Bythewood, and you are listening to Versed Online.
Thank you. I would like to start off first off saying thank you so
Hmm.
much for allowing us to interview you because we've been following your work for so many years. So this is really something that we're excited about.
Appreciate
Um,
that.
First, you're adopted and you
Hmm.
seeked out your birth mother. What was the process like, and how's the relationship between you two now?
Wow, you starting out personal. So, let's see the process. I always wanted to find her, and
Mhm.
that was definitely not a reflection on my parents. That my parents are amazing. It's just something I think most adoptees want to know is where they came from. So I tried for a very long time to track her down on my own and went through an organization called International Locator, which I highly do not recommend. And they're a famous organization, but they took my money and didn't do anything. And I'm sure that's happened to thousands of people.
Oh my.
Um, so finally, I reached out to my sister who works in um, library research, and
Mhm.
she tracked her down in like 2 days.
Okay.
And I was born in Chicago, but she lives in Atlanta, and
Okay.
so my sister got the phone number, and my husband actually called her to just confirm that the name matched the phone number, and pretended that he was selling a newspaper.
Mhm.
And it was her, and then I wrote her a letter, and I'd written that letter in my head 1,000 times, but
Wow.
it was really just um, you know, just who I am, that I had a
Mhm.
desire to meet her, but thank you for my life. And she called me a couple days later, and it was an amazing phone call to, like, after all those years, to talk to the person that
Right.
gave birth to you, and
Yeah.
um, it was a good phone call, a little awkward at times, of
Mhm.
course, but we made plans to meet. Um, in Atlanta, and
Okay.
so I flew out there with my husband, and um, I was afraid I was gonna lose it, honestly.
Mhm.
But it was so strange when she knocked on the door, like she lost it and started
Oh.
bawling, and that kind of shut me down almost.
Okay.
Um, and we hugged, and it's just so weird, like to it's so fraught with it's just 1,000 different emotions. It's like looking at your birth mom.
Right.
Um, and so we went to dinner, just she and I, and um, it was just it was just it was strange, but it was good. That first meeting, was good, and it was a trip because she's white, I'm black, and
Mhm.
the I remember she went up to go to the bathroom, and the waitress just came by, and she said, "Is that your mom?" I said,
Oh
"What?"
wow.
I said, "Why do you ask?" She says, "'Cause you guys look just like each other," and that that blew me away. Um, but so we had a good conversation, and the next day. I met her two kids. She has a son and a daughter, and her son is like 9 months younger than me. So
Oh
that tripped me
wow.
out. And her two kids are white, so it was like a little bit of that. Wow, you gave me up,
Um,
and you kept the one that
yeah,
didn't do it.
yeah.
But the more we talked, it seemed like the more truth came out. And it just was so. It just was not what you want to hear as a person about how you came into the world and how you were
Mm.
not wanted, and it was making her. She said it was sending her back into therapy, and just kind of the relationship just crumbled and fell apart, um
Okay.
and it's unfortunate, but it did, and we haven't
Mm.
spoken since gosh, I guess I don't know,
Okay.
it's been years.
Oh wow. Like you really started off the interview so personal. How did you get your start in the industry? What professional challenges, if any, did you face now versus back then?
Mhm. Oh, I
Uh,
just realized I didn't answer the second half of your first question, which is how influenced me.
Yeah. Well, how
Um,
did you get? Yeah.
I mean, I think there were things that I struggled with tremendously growing up, which affected my feelings of self worth and my self esteem. And one, was being a black woman growing up in a
Mm-hmm.
white family and an all white world, essentially neighborhood schools, and very very tough. And my parents are great, as I said, but they just didn't know, and were more of the mind of we don't see color,
Right.
and if somebody throws racism at you, just ignore it and it'll go away,
Mm-hmm.
um, as opposed to stand up and fight for yourself. So that was tough, and I just wanted to get away so badly from where I grew up from, and that was such an impetus in terms of me doing very well in school. Sports was a huge thing for me. If I didn't have sports, I don't know where I would be, because it gave me such, that was the only thing that I had that made me feel good. And I did play at a high level for all through high school, and was recruited, and sports was everything to me and gave
Mm-hmm.
me what little self-esteem I had. But it was such a push of just to get away,
Mm-hmm.
and so just achieve at a high level so I could get away, and that was UCLA, where I wanted to go to film school. And it absolutely just my childhood, and then as I said, what happened with my birth mother, and that
Mm-hmm.
affected my self-esteem as well. So much of my work is about women finding their self-worth, and it's absolutely tied to my upbringing and what I struggled with, and what I'm coming to, into my own, and now having a sense of self-worth and pride, and being able to look in the mirror and be happy with what I see, which was, something I wasn't able to do when I was younger.
Right.
So again, it absolutely influences the type of stories I tell, why I fight so hard to tell these stories, why I fight so
Mm-hmm.
hard to put people of color on screen. Because I know growing up that I didn't have the opportunity to go to the movies and look up and see myself reflected positively, and it absolutely can have an influence on your self-esteem and what you feel you can aspire to.
Okay. What professional challenges, if any, do you face now versus back then?
hmm Well, my work, what it has allowed me to do is anytime I write a project, I I'm in those doors. I can make a call and have the head of studios read my stuff. So I'm in there. The challenge though is what I want to do, which is films that focus on people of color, and most of the time women of color. That is the tough thing to get made, because the people running studios, they're not looking at that as something that's going to make them a ton of money, or something that they feel they have to do, or even care about.
Right.
So it's a tough fight to get it made. But as I learned very early on in my career, starting in film school, is
Mm-hmm.
that you just need one yes, and you have to overcome no. So, as I said, started in film school. I didn't get in when I applied to UCLA, which was a shock to me, and I hadn't given myself any backup. And so I wrote a letter to the head of the film school explaining why she made a mistake.
Okay.
And I got a call 2 days later letting me in, and that really set the tone for my career, because everything I've done, this started with a no. Love and Basketball, every studio turned it down,
Mm.
until the Sundance program caught wind of it, and I went through that, and then the studio stepped up. Beyond the Lights, everybody turned it down twice,
Wow.
but in having the memory and knowing it just takes one yes, it just gives you the courage to keep fighting to get it done. And that's why you've got to focus on what you're passionate about, because if you're not passionate about what you're writing and what you want to say to the world, it's so easy to let a no stop you. But if you're so clear about
Mm.
what you want to put into the world, it gets you up for the fight.
Okay. Your movie Beyond the Light, it received a lot of positive reviews. A lot of people who've seen the movie, they like it.
Mhm.
What was the inspiration behind the storyline?
Mhm. I wanted to write another love story,
Mm.
And after, I mean, Love and Basketball was the first thing I came out with. It was a great experience, and I loved it how it's endured. And but it was 14 years ago,
Right.
and I just wanted to put another love story out in the world. But I also love music films. I think they're probably the great ones are my favorite, if you can get it right. And
Mhm.
so I just wanted to marry those two things together, but didn't know what the story was. And the story and character of Noni came to me when I was at an Alicia Keys concert.
Okay.
Um, I write to music, so it kind of makes perfect sense. But she was singing that song Diary,
Mhm.
and suddenly it was like I closed my eyes and I was seeing this movie. It was very, very cool with her just singing and fueling the soundtrack. And as a writer, it doesn't always happen like that, but it was a
Mhm.
pretty phenomenal moment. And at that point, it was just the excitement of going home and really fleshing it out and putting some personal things that I was dealing with. One, as I mentioned before, in terms of tracking down my mother
Right.
and what that became, and really kind of envisioning my life would have been like if she hadn't given me up and raised me.
Mm.
And then also in terms of the suicide attempt that's within the film, and really the theme of the film of Choose Life came out of somebody very close to me trying to commit
Okay.
suicide, and thankfully changing their mind halfway through and being able to get help in time. For
Mm.
me to really try and understand that, and again, just put in the world choose life, because this person got to a point that was so dark that they couldn't see seconds in front of them, and their life is so much better now.
Mm.
And if they hadn't changed their mind, they never would have had this new life. And that's really the character Noni, that she was at a point where she could have ended her life, and the fact that she was pulled back and got the opportunity to find herself and find her voice and find love and love of herself, and everything. And for me, it's my hope that when people see the film, that they can be inspired by that. And I have to say, obviously the critical acclaim is great, and as an artist, obviously you crave that. But
Mm.
the more amazing thing is four different people now have reached out, um, who were contemplating suicide and saw the
Wow.
film, and the film gave them hope, and that's amazing, amazing, and what you want as an artist, to be able to affect people in that way.
Mm. Okay. Wow. Earlier you brought up that you wrote Love and Basketball and it was turned down, and so was Beyond the Lights. So
Mhm.
my next question is racism and sexism alive and well in Hollywood? And if so, have you dealt with any personally?
Mhm. Well, I mean, you know, like everybody knows that it exists, but it's not really spoken about. But then, of course, these leaked emails
Yeah.
reveal what is going on behind closed doors.
Mhm.
Um, it's tough. There's no black folks running any studios and making those final decisions. Um, that's that's tough. Um, and it honestly, it wasn't for Beyond the Lights. It wasn't until we sent the script to BET, who was looking to get the films. They were the first people that just got it. They were like, "We get it, and Gugu is great, and this story is great, and we want to put this in the world, and we will give you a couple $1 million. Just find a studio."
Right.
So that was really the turning point. And it was a black company that recognized it and stepped up first. Um, so there's, I think it's like 1% of directors are black females. I mean, that's a
Wow.
tremendous amount. I think
Yeah.
for females in general, I think it's 4%, something ridiculous and crazy in 2014. Like, why is that? Like, talent has
Yeah.
no color and it has no gender. It makes no sense. So you have to
Ex-
look at the reality, which is who is doing the hiring, and that's the majority of that is white men.
wow. Because you just kind of answered my next question, because there's a lot of buzz about the emails that were hacked. And of course, I know you heard about, what some things that were said about Kevin Hart and
Mhm.
Willow and Jaden Smith. So was this a surprise to you? Like when the email started being reported that that was were being discussed amongst the big dogs in Sony.
Yeah, no, not a surprise, because again, you hear. I mean, when you're in meetings, people sometimes slip up and then they apologize, or they slip up and then they laugh because no one checks them on it. I mean,
Mm.
it's it's there, and it's also there in some of the decision making, whether it be what films they greenlight, who they greenlight, and also in marketing. And the fact that you can make a film and the second it's got one black person in the lead, it's suddenly a black film that has to be marketed only to black folks, as opposed to you know Beyond the Lights is a love story. It's got people of color, but it's a universal story. And we go to Toronto and get a standing ovation with an all-white crowd, and we go to Urban World, 2 weeks later, all-black crowd, and get a standing ovation. So market it to everybody. It's a, a
Mhm.
film that
Yeah.
everybody can respond to. But it's just so ingrained in Hollywood, and it's just my push and my husband push and other filmmakers to just slowly try and affect the machine by putting out what we hope is really good product, and just really pushing people to come at our movies a different way, and just try and change the game.
Okay. You've written for shows like A Different World,
Mhm.
and that seemed to uplift the minds. This was well, let's see, A Different World got off the air in '93, right?
Mhm.
So that's 21 years ago. And at that time, A Different World seemed to uplift the minds of their young viewers. But,
Absolutely.
yes, but now zoom to 2014, it seems that reality television is taking over full force.
Right.
Some positive and some negative. Do you fear the state of sitcom shows?
What was the last thing you said about
Um, do you
sitcom?
do you fear the state of sitcom shows?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most amazing things about Different World is that the enrollment in HBCUs went up
Mhm.
significantly, and
Right.
enrollment of black students in college went up. That's
Mhm.
amazing. So right there it shows the influence of television. And on the flip side now, where reality shows like permeate the entire landscape, it's very scary to me, especially the imagery of black women in reality
Right.
shows. It is a nonstop repetition of ratchetness, and it's absolutely filtering into our psyche. One, the world and the way they perceive us as what
Mhm.
they see on television in reality shows, but it's also us and younger girls coming up and watching that and believing that's what you need to emulate.
Mm.
That's frightening, and it's one of the things that I wanted to deal with in Beyond the Lights is that normalization of hypersexuality that's permeating music. I mean, I love R&B and B and hip hop, but
Mm.
I don't love where it's going right now. There's just a competition of hypersexuality, and our girls and our boys are watching that and emulating that because they think that's the only way, and that because we're not giving them anything different. So you've got music and you've got reality shows that are dictating behavior of people coming up, and then not actually even just young folks, but us in general. And it's like it's changing our culture, not for the better. And I just want to change the conversation and give us something else to emulate and aspire to, something positive. And positive doesn't mean corny. It doesn't mean soft. It's
Right.
just different.
Right. Whew, thank you. um, but you said that reality, because it is scary, because some of the reality shows out now, you look at it and you have to kind of clutch yourself at, at some of the sites that's, at some of the situations that's being shown, and a lot of people
Mhm.
feel that all African American people act this
Yes.
way.
Yep.
So being that reality television is taking over, would you ever consider producing a positive reality television show?
No.
Not at all?
I just dislike the genre so much, because it makes stars out of people for no reason.
Hmm.
Um, the thing is, I like actually, though I don't watch anymore, but I used to like watching American Idol or The Voice. But it's because it's an opportunity to discover, or it gives opportunity to people that aren't in New York or L.A. a chance,
Mhm.
because there's talent everywhere.
Right.
But there's talent, undiscovered talent, everywhere that they just don't have the opportunity. So I love the opportunity that it brings. I love documentaries. Hoop Dreams is one of my favorite films, hands
Okay.
down.
Mm.
Um, and so if it's something like that, but in terms of a reality show, I just don't think anything good could really come of it, because even if it starts out positive, the people within the reality show suddenly become famous, and then it changes them as well, and then you're trying to maintain that fame, and the way to maintain that is to, it's it's really about changing behavior and becoming more outrageous and giving people a reason to watch. Um,
Okay.
Part of it is human nature, unfortunately, where it seems that people would rather watch negativity than positivity.
Right.
But we don't need to feed into that instinct. Let's try
Mhm.
and change that instinct.
Okay. You emphasize a lot on hair, primarily natural hair. Do
Hmm.
you think it's a good idea for African American women to go natural?
With Beyond the Lights, um, it's so interesting because obviously I've sat through many screenings with audiences, and the reaction to that scene. I mean, I love it,
Mhm.
because there are sometimes there's tears, other times there's applause, sometimes there's cheers, and for me, it was really about a woman being able to look into the mirror and remember that little girl who used to look in the mirror and hate what she saw because she was being told by her mom
Mm.
and thusly everyone else that the way that she looked naturally was wrong and needed to be
Mhm.
fixed and
Right.
changed. And so then to cut to 15 years later, and she's got long hair,
Mhm.
which is supposed to be the standard of beauty. So for her to be able to get to a point in her life where she can look in the mirror and take that off and look at her natural self and love what she sees, that's what that moment was about. It's
Mhm.
definitely not, um, for me, whether you choose to rock a weave or not. It's just about choice
Right.
and making sure it's your choice, that you're not doing it to appease society or your man who only likes long hair, or
Mhm.
something like that. If that makes you feel good, then by all means, it's about being authentic to who you are.
Right.
So it's definitely not shaking the finger at anyone who rocks a weave. If that makes you feel good and it's your choice and you're doing it for the right reasons, then by all means. For the character Noni and for me, it's about learning to love yourself. I mean, I
Mm.
hated my curls growing up, um, but I've come to love them, and it's pretty fascinating because every time I do a photo shoot across the board, that's one of the first questions I'm asked is, "Can we straighten your hair for the photo?"
Oh
And I
wow.
don't understand that. I'm saying this is a relentless question, and I always say no because that's not me. That's not how I
Right.
rock it, and
Yeah.
why would I do that? Um, and it's mostly, honestly, from black magazines. I don't get it, but I hope that me saying no maybe inspires others at that point
Mhm.
to say no as well, because it shouldn't be the standard of beauty. But if you if you rock it, again, it's about choice.
Exactly. Wow. I can't believe that. Yeah, because like my hair is it has a mind of its own.
Mhm.
Half of it's curly, the other half it's just there. So it's like I have a lot of because I haven't permed my hair in over let's see, it's been 13 years since I permed my hair.
Wow.
Yeah, so I primarily do braids or I
Mhm.
straighten it or I'll do the bantu knots, but it's just so hard dealing with it, but I end up learning how to. But
Mhm.
sometimes it's like, do I have to just cut all my hair off just to, because once the humidity comes, then it poofs up, and then it's just it's so much with natural hair. I love it, but it's a process. It is.
It is a process, and I know. I mean, like the woman Aisha Hines who plays the political consultant in the movie. Like she has no hair,
Mhm.
and that takes some serious courage. But I know there are many of us who would just love to just shave it off and not worry about it. It would just
Yeah.
make life so much easier.
Yes, I was even thinking of dreading my hair. I'm like, okay, I think I was a junior in high school, so I said I'm gonna dread my hair. But then if I dread, it's gonna shed. So I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do with my hair. Oh boy, natural hair care. Oh my gosh. Okay, next question. For some time, I think it was last year, there were rumors going around that there will be a sequel to Love and Basketball. 'Cause that's everybody's favorite movie. I don't know one person who do not love that movie. If you can, will there be a sequel to Love and Basketball in the future?
Never.
Never?
Never. I am sincerely flattered that people ask me this question. I mean, it's amazing that people want to see more, especially after all these years. But for me as an artist, I said what I wanted to say for that film, and it was such a personal, autobiographical story, and things I needed to say, and was excited about saying. But I said everything I wanted to say, and I feel like it ended the way it was supposed to end.
Mhm.
They got married, they had a little girl, she's a
Right.
baller,
Mhm.
and I feel like anything I would come up with or try and come up with would be less interesting than what an audience has envisioned for their future. Like I think that's cooler that the audiences, they envision what happened ultimately with Monica and Quincy and the little girl. And I mean, people pitched me, you know, sequels to it all the time, and it's very cool. But again, I think I love that the audience can project as opposed to me coming in and trying to do it again and try and recapture that again. I mean, it was special, and the chemistry between those two was special.
Right.
And I don't want to try and recapture it. I'd rather, find new, with Noni and Kaz and Gugu and Nate, their chemistry being so insane. Like that's exciting to me to continue to find new talent and put them in the world and give us more people to put on the list, the
Mhm.
Hollywood list, whenever they're ready to make a movie and decide who could be in it. We just need to expand that list for people, for actors of color. So that's really my excitement. Though I'm dying to. I mean, I love Omar and Sanaa, dying to work with them again. But I'd rather just put them in, different characters.
Oh, okay. Oh, because every time BT plays it, it's always trending on Twitter. And it's not even
Crazy.
to the bottom. Yeah, it's to the top. So a lot of people are, oh my gosh, it's going to be a sequel to Love and Basketball. That's what I had to ask that because I'm like, I wonder if she's in the process of creating a sequel to it because that would be lovely.
No, someone created an actual poster. That's what really blew it up. I mean, that was impressive, to put together a whole poster. Um, and yeah, the only thing I love, of course, BET plays it like once a month. However, what I hate is anybody that's discovering the film on BET because it's the TV version, so it's got like 20
It's
minutes cut out.
right.
So that hurts me as an artist that
So in
you're not
other
seeing
words,
the actual version of,
yeah,
and
of
it's
the movie.
like $4.99 in the bargain bin at this point at Walmart. So I'd rather use
And I
that.
think it's on Netflix too.
Not yet.
Okay.
I honestly, I just had a meeting at Netflix the other day, and I said you've got to get the movie on Netflix.
Yes.
It just has to do with deals that they have with the studios, but I'd rather people be able to see the way I made it as opposed to a cut down version of it for commercials. It drives me crazy.
Ah, see, go to Walmart or anywhere and see. Don't see the TV. I'm so glad you said it. Don't see the TV version. See the real version. See the
Yes, the
DVD
real
version.
version, and it's got
Yes.
commentary on there, and it's got some behind the scenes and some deleted scenes. It's much better.
Oh, okay. Being that you've been in the business for so long, do you have any advice for aspiring writers, directors,
Hmm.
and producers?
Absolutely, it starts with being passionate about what you are doing, whether you're a writer, or whether you're a director or a producer. You've got to be passionate about the project. Do not ever go into something because you think it's what people want to see, because
Right.
then you're just doing what anybody else can do and have done. Go in there with something personal, something that only you could write or you could direct, or as a
Mhm.
producer, a story that only you could tell,
Mm.
because that's what's going to make it stand out. Um,
Right.
Coming up at a film school and deciding I needed to write a screenplay because I wanted to direct. Um, I started out writing this romantic comedy because I thought that's what would sell easy,
Mhm.
and I was just having trouble with it. And the truth was, I was having trouble because I wasn't passionate about it. And there was this other story in my head that would not let me go, which was about this little girl who wanted to be the first girl in the NBA. And finally, I just put down the other one and picked that up and said, let me write what's truthful to me. It's like the first thing you come out with is going to say so much about you and dictate your career. So if that's the case, come out with something that you believe in, that you're passionate about, because it sets a tone for your career. And it's not enough to just get your foot in the door. That's what I used to believe, do anything just to get your foot in the door. But the problem is then you're getting in the door with something that may not be authentic to you, and it's very hard to then get out of that box or turn it around.
Mm. Okay. Do you accept movie, TV pictures? And if yes, what's your submission?
Um,
Submission process or requirements for that?
Yeah, I do not personally because I'm at the point. I've directed one thing I didn't write, which was Disappearing Acts
Mhm.
for HBO, and it just was not. I love that book to death, and really did dig that project. It doesn't feel as good as when I direct what I've written. So my focus is really to do that, direct what I've written, and I still have a couple stories in my head that I need to get out. So that's really my focus. My husband and I are working on getting a production company up and going. So as soon as that happens, then people will be able to submit, and we will be looking for some new writers and new directors. But that's still some months away, but that's definitely our focus to be able to just open it up and find those new exciting voices and put them in the world.
Oh, okay. Now, what's in store for 2015? Are you going to create another love story?
2015, I'm writing a pilot right now, which I'm excited about. I
Okay.
can't talk about it yet, but and then my next feature, I'm so excited about it. It's like I know the characters, I know the story. It focuses on friendship and how it female friendship and how it changes um, through the years as you get older, and so just I'm very excited about that. A lot of personal stuff within that as well.
Okay.
So that'll be the next one that I'll write and direct.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much for the interview.
No, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it.
And for some people who don't know how to, social media, Twitter,
Hmm.
Instagram, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Instagram at GPB Made It, and that's probably the best. Undisputed Cinema is Facebook, and that's the production company my husband and I have been talking about. So we have a Facebook page. We just and Beyond the Lights was really the second project we've done. So as I said, as soon as it's fully up and running, then we'll be able to start accepting
Oh,
submissions. But we're not doing that yet. Hey, this is Gina Prince-Bythewood, and you are listening to Versed Online.